At 7:42 in the morning on August 17, 1943, the sun was just beginning to burn through the mist hanging over WWII airfield in New Guinea. The air smelled of fuel, damp earth, and hot metal. Technical Sergeant James McKenna crouched beneath the left wing of a P-38 Lightning, his grease-stained hands resting on his knees, watching a young pilot climb into the cockpit. McKenna had learned to recognize that look in a man's eyes, the tight jaw, the forced calm. It was the look of someone preparing for a mission he wasn't sure he would survive. The pilot's name was Lieutenant Robert Hayes, 23 years old. A farm kid from Iowa. 6 combat missions flown, 0 kills. Not because he lacked skill or courage, but because the war over New Guinea didn't reward pilots who followed the rules too closely. That morning, intelligence said 18 Japanese Mitsubishi A-6M0 fighters were already airborne, climbing to intercept the patrol Hayes was about to join. The numbers were bad. The odds were worse. McKenna had been maintaining P-38s for 8 months. He knew the aircraft the way a doctor knows a body. Twin engines. Twin booms. Fast in a straight line. Devastating at high altitude. On paper, it was one of the most advanced fighters in the world. But in the skies over the Pacific, it carried a flaw that was killing American pilots every single day. The P-38 could not turn with a 0. The Japanese fighter was lighter, tighter, more agile. In a horizontal turn, it could reverse direction in nearly half the time it took a Lightning. In a dogfight, that difference meant life or death. American doctrine was clear and repeated endlessly in briefings. Never turn with a 0. Use speed. Use altitude. Dive, fire, climb away. Hit and run. If you tried to outturn a 0, you died. Hayes had followed that doctrine on every mission. And every time, it failed him. The Japanese pilots were smart. They baited American fighters, lured them into defensive maneuvers, forced moments where turning became unavoidable. And when a P-38 tried to roll out of danger, it hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. That hesitation was all a 0 pilot needed. In the previous 6 weeks alone, the 5th Air Force had lost 37 P-38s. Most of them were shot down in turning engagements the pilots couldn't escape. Official reports blamed pilot error. Training officers said the men weren't flying the aircraft properly. McKenna knew that wasn't true. He had watched too many good pilots die, kids, really, who did exactly what they were taught and never came back. McKenna believed the problem wasn't the men. It was the airplane. Inside the P-38's twin booms, the aileron control cables ran through pulleys toward the tail, then forward again to the wings. The system met factory specifications, but it had slack. Not much, about 3/8 of an inch at full deflection. Barely noticeable on paper. But at low speeds, in hard turns, that slack caused a delay between the pilot moving the stick and the aircraft responding. At high speed, it didn't matter. In combat, it mattered everything. McKenna had raised the issue months earlier. The engineering officer told him the tension was within tolerance. Factory approved. Changing it would void the warranty. Besides, no enlisted mechanic had the authority to modify flight control systems. That required approval from Lockheed. And Lockheed was 7,000 miles away in California. So McKenna did what regulations forbade. 2 weeks earlier, a damaged P-38 had been written off after a ground accident. Before it was hauled away, McKenna salvaged a few usable items. One of them was a 6-inch piece of high-tensile piano wire from the rudder trim system. He kept it in his tool bag without knowing exactly why. On the night of August 16th, he found his reason. Hayes came to the maintenance area just before dusk. He didn't bother with small talk. He asked McKenna if there was anything at all, that could make his airplane roll faster. He said he didn't care if it was regulation. He just wanted a chance to live. McKenna told him to come back in the morning. That night, long after the hangar emptied, McKenna worked alone. The only sounds were insects buzzing against the lights and the distant thrum of generators. He pulled open the inspection panel on Hayes's left boom and grabbed the control cable. The slack was there, plain as day. Wrong. Deadly. Sitting on the concrete floor, McKenna bent the piano wire into a tight Z-shape with a pair of pliers. The metal fought him. His hands slipped. He cut his thumb. Blood smeared the wire. He wiped it on his coveralls and kept going. 8 minutes later, the tensioner was ready. Installing it took longer. The space was cramped. Shadows jumped as his flashlight shifted. He dropped a clevis pin and spent 5 minutes feeling around in the dark to find it. His heart pounded the entire time. If he was caught, it would mean a court-martial. Prison, maybe worse. But if he did nothing, Hayes would almost certainly die. When the tensioner was finally in place, McKenna pulled on the cable. No slack. The control surface moved instantly. Perfect. At 1:15 a.m., he closed the panel, cleaned his tools, and walked out into the humid night. He didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling until dawn. At 7:42 a.m., Hayes took off. McKenna stood on the flight line, watching the lightning climb into the sky and disappear toward Japanese airspace. What happened next unfolded in just 17 minutes, but it changed everything. The intercept came at 8:14 over the Huon Gulf. Hayes dove from altitude, sun behind him, speed building. He picked a zero at the back of the formation and opened fire. The first burst damaged the wing but didn't kill it. The zero snap-rolled and dove. Hayes followed, and for the first time, his airplane responded instantly. No lag. No mush. The P-38 rolled like it had shed 1,000 pounds. Hayes lined up again and fired. The rounds walked up the fuselage. The zero exploded. Moments later, 3 more zeros came diving down on him. Doctrine said run. Hayes turned instead. The lightning snapped through the maneuver. 1 zero overshot. Hayes killed it. Another tried to scissor. Hayes stayed with him and destroyed it at close range. The fourth ran. 3 kills in 7 minutes. When Hayes landed, McKenna was waiting. Hayes climbed out, shaking, drenched in sweat, and said only 2 words. It worked. Other pilots had seen the fight. They knew something was different. That evening, Captain Frank Mitchell came looking for McKenna. He asked what he'd done. McKenna told him the truth. Mitchell asked him to do it again. Within days, the modification spread quietly through the squadron. No paperwork. No authorization. Just mechanics helping pilots survive. Kill ratios shifted. Pilots came home alive. Japanese reports grew confused, then alarmed. The zero's advantage was gone. By September, the balance of air combat in New Guinea had changed. The piano wire tensioner never became official during the war. Lockheed later incorporated a similar fix into newer models without crediting McKenna. No medal. No citation. But dozens of pilots lived. Hayes survived the war. So did Mitchell. McKenna went home, opened a garage, and never talked much about what he'd done. When asked, he said he was just a mechanic. James McKenna died in 2006. His obituary didn't mention the piano wire, or the lives it saved. But this is how innovation really happens in war, not through committees or manuals, but through people who see a problem, find a solution, and act when it matters most.